بفضلك عونا وتعليما إنك على كل شيء قدير. Okay, so we mentioned these things that have been excess of this. So basically, upshot from last week, if you're in debt, um, we mentioned this whole point here, وَمَنْ عَلَيْهِ مُؤْنَتُهُمْ, and supporting other things, such as helping people who are in dire situations throughout the world, etc., etc., etc. So basically, upshot, anybody who's in debt, or given the world as the world is, Hajj is not obligatory. So here's a problem then, right? Here's a problem is what if then everybody did that for the last 150 years? Nobody goes on Hajj, right? So it is also for kifaya that Hajj happens, right? It's a bit like um it's kind of like one of these things, like everything's totally falling apart. Somebody has to still do this thing, right? So Allahu A'lam, there still has to be a certain number. I think it mentioned we did this before, either last week or the week before, that we said, where was it? That you had to have enough people to give yudhir shi'ar. You had to like give the sense that it's happening. Can't remember where it said it. Oh, it was right in the beginning. You said it was like it's obligatory. Um, oh yeah, right. وفرضاني. So Umrah and Hajj are fardani, fardad kifayatin. They are communal obligations. لإحياء الكعبة, to live life to the Kaaba. كل سنة, right? Every year, right? At least once. من جمع, from a large group of people. يظهر بهم الشعار, that give the sense that this thing's happening, right? So that still has to happen. You can't just stop these things. So this is again, let's go to the other side, right? What we see like Ikhwan Muslimin and other people, not all Ikhwan, but certain Ikhwan mentality is, bro, it's not the time for hijab right now. Now is the time for building the ummah again. We are in the Meccan stage of life. So focusing on things like that. Like, okay, we need to work on politics, we need to work on education, we need to work on the basics of the ummah. Now let's ignore prayer, let's ignore hijab, let's ignore rules of halal and haram, let's ignore riba, let's ignore this because it's a priority. Okay, so that's a kind of that's fiqh without dawabit, right? Fiqh without systems. There's no real system around it. It's just a general idea, and there's truth in it, right? There's truth in it. And it's a very important objection when you come along and see the deen is like, okay, you guys all going Hajj but letting people starve. Obviously, it's a bit weird. Um, you're feeding people meat, but you're killing animals, but the meat isn't really getting to people, so it's not very effective. It is true to question whether or not the spirit of the deen is being applied here and there. But one thing is to question, the other thing is to come along and just totally uproot everything and say, oh, let's just reinvent the religion, right? So that's maqasidi kind of people who look at what is the point of the Sharia and then ignore the rules of the Sharia and just go to the point of the Sharia, right? That's quite a fine line to it's quite a difficult thing to do. Okay. Um, um, okay, so then it says you have to have enough money there and back. So, um,
Question on that, yeah, Sheikh.
you had a question, Omar?
Yeah, I think Bilal had asked this last week, but for kind of having enough provision and the people you're obligated to, am I correct in saying for the this first instance, it's actually the journey, and then the second time it comes, when we're talking about ويشترط كون ذلك, like it's in excess of someone's debts and providing for the people they're responsible for. That's talking about the people's needs
Yeah, so
back home. Am I reading that correctly?
yeah,
It
so
comes up twice.
One thing is your needs and the people who the people that are so your needs there and back, and the other person, the other one is then supporting those people during that time there and back.
Okay, so uh the first time it says like وَمَعْنَا ذَهَبَ هُوَ إِيَابَهُ, that's
Yeah.
referring to
So he
the
has
people
the
that are
means
coming
for
with you to
himself
Hajj,
to go there
or
and back, yeah. And then
okay.
on that also has to be in excess of of what their needs as well. Mhm. So the way it's
Okay.
organizing it is imagine you were by yourself. So I say, Ammar, do you have the money to go there and back? Yes. So, but okay, so now I do. Now catch. Oh, I have a father I need to look after. Oh, I didn't know that. So that's why the logic, that's why they kind of added it at the end and they say, oh, it's now a condition, as opposed to, why don't you just give me a big list? Say, you have to have enough money to do this, 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 right? So it's kind of, they've kind of put it in a certain system, that's all. Um, okay. So it says وشرط الفضل المذكور كونه لجميع مدة غيبته ذهابا وإيابا وإقامة وإن لم يكن له ببلده أهل ولا عشيرة كما مر لما في الغربة من وحشة لنزع النفوس يحرم عليه right. ويحرم عليه السفر حتى يترك ل ل مامونه, the person who he does who looks after, مؤنته مدة ذهابه وإيابه. Okay, so this is again a kind of an idea like, oh, we don't care about the dunya. We don't care about the dunya, and we should instill that in our family, and it's very important to instill that in our family. Like, let's look at our house. Is this so part of the haqq of the wife over the husband is that we try and instill that in them, right? And when it's like your wife wants a bigger house, she's like, "Can we get a new car? Can we get?" The kids are always like, "I want to have more. I want to have more and have more." So now you've like, okay, it's halal. It's like, yeah, but you've made your kids worldlings. That's not good at all, right? But that's one thing. So now the other extreme is, oh, it's okay, just leave my kids, and who's going to look after your kids? Allah. It's like, well, as long as they're happy with that, right? Um, you know, and then even with your kids, how could you even do that with your kids? Um, so. Your wife can say, I accept, because she's reached puberty and she says it's my right to be provided for and I overlook it. Okay, fine. But your kids can't do that. So it says يحرم عليه السفر حتى يترك لمامونه مؤنة مدة ذهابه وإيابه. Right, it's haram to do that. Similarly, we're going to talk about debts in a second, right? The same thing is you can't spend money. If you have a debt that is due in 2 weeks, okay, it's a large sum, and you don't expect to make that money in that time, it is haram to like do extra things. Like you have to take the means to be able to pay that debt on time, right? You can't do that. لكن يخيره الحاكم بين طلاق زوجته وترك مؤنتها عند ابن حجر. Right. Um, okay. So it says it has to be وعن مسكن, you have enough money so you're paying rent. وخادم يحتاج إليه, do you have somewhere to stay? Do you have a servant if you need a servant? So in the past, right, you can't just travel in the middle of nowhere by yourself. Right? You're going to need people to help you. It's not so having a servant or a slave is not something kind of luxurious thing. It's like basic stuff because they don't have what we have today. And even if you're going by yourself, it's very difficult traveling across the middle of nowhere, right? Um, um, okay, question. He says, لو احتاج إلى صرف ما يحج به لتزوجه مع خوف عنة, خوف الزنا, فالأفضل له التزوج به. Okay, so this is a new practical issue. Should I get married or should I go on Hajj? لكن يستقر عليه الحج لأن النكاح من الملاذ فلا يمنع استقراره. Not ملاذ, but من الملاذ with a shadda, right? So he says if you need to spend the money that you have saved to get married because you fear of the haram, then it's better for him to get married. But you're still obliged to go on Hajj. It's not a non-excuse. It's not an excuse in that you're not obliged to go on Hajj. right? لأن النكاح من الملاذ, because it's a maladha, because it's considered it's not considered a darura, nor is it considered a haja, but it's considered something else. So getting married. So yes, you need to do that in order to avoid the haram, but no, it is in itself is not. It's not. You're not going to die without marriage, nor is it considered a haja. It's considered like something. It's like the lower level than that. Um, فلا يمنع استقراره. Right. وأفتى الشهاب الرملي. So this is, we know the two Ramlis. There's الشهاب الدين الرملي, Ahmed Shihab al-Din al-Ramli, which is the student of Zakaria Ansari, and the father of Muhammad Shams al-Din al-Ramli. Right. So at that time, I don't know how long that period lasted for. Everybody was either called Muhammad Shams al-Din or Shihab, or Ahmed Shihab al-Din. Right. Like Imam al-Qarafi, I'm pretty sure he's called, like he's Maliki. I don't know. He's a few centuries before them at least. He's called Shihab al-Din, right? Everybody's called Ahmed Shihab al-Din something, right? Or Muhammad Shihab al-Din, Shams al-Din something, right? It's very, very common. It seems like that's not even their name. It's just like your name begins like that. Just like in the Indo-Pak, many people's names begin Muhammad Nadeem, Muhammad Shakil, Muhammad, whatever. Um, so this is Ahmad Shihab al-Din al-Ramli, and then there's Muhammad Shams al-Din al-Ramli. So they're usually going to say Mim Ra, right? Mim Ra, Mim Muhammad al-Ramli, right? So anyway, and often his son agrees with him, and sometimes his son disagrees with him. Right? So it says, وأفتى الشهاب الرملي بوجوب الحج على من بيده وظيفة أمكنه النزول عنها بما يكفيه للحج وإن لم يكن له وإن لم يكن له غيرها. Right? So you have a job and you have savings. If you left that job, you would have enough money to go on Hajj and come back. But when you came back, you'd have no job. Right? He said that's obligatory. ونقل سين ميم. This is Ibn Qasim in his Hashia on the Tuhfa, and السيوطي أنه لا يلزمه. Right? So we can see, Allahu A'lam. And that's why it's a good idea. Again, take your kids on Hajj when they are young. Right? That's the general idea, so that it's get these things done when people are in easier situations. Okay. وعن مسكن وخادم يحتاج إليه. الثالث أمن الطريق, that it be safe. Right. So this is where we discuss things like bungee jumping. Is bungee jumping halal? Right. So why would we talk about bungee jumping in Hajj? Because here we talk about taking huge risks for a particular reason. Right. So it says من الطريق أمنا لائقا بالسفر ولو بخفير, God, بأجرة مثله على نفسه وجميع ما يحتاج لاستصحابه لسفره, لا على مال نحو تجارة أها ولا على مال غيره إن لم يلزم حفظه لأن خوف أداء ذلك لم يكن له المعطي له الإمام والناس فوجه السلوك الذي يأمن فيه من طال إن وجد سلوك, right? واشترط أيضا وجود رفقة يخرج مع وقت العادة, right? So you have to have a group of people. You're not obliged to walk and travel in the middle of nowhere. إن خاف الوحدة, right? You're scared of being by yourself. So you're going on a journey where you're literally probably going to be for a long time by yourself. You're not expected to do that. ولا Okay, so here it says, وَالْأَظْهَرُ, right? What does al-Azhar mean? It means Imam Shafi'i has two opinions, and the two opinions are both jadid, and they're both jadid, they're not qadim, and they are both strong. And this is stronger, and the debate between them is strong, right? That's what it means. It's not that there's one position that is wahi that's very weak or something like that. So it says, والأظهر وجوب ركوب البحر ولو على امرأة وجدت محلا تنعزل فيه عن الرجال إن تعين طريقا ولو لي جد بالأرض وغلبة السلام فيه وقت سفره, right? So it says the stronger position is you are obliged to go by sea, right? So but the condition is وغلبت سلامته فيه, well, right, if it's normally safe. So traveling by sea is not safe. Traveling by airplane is not safe. There is danger in it. Okay. But you are now going on a journey. It's a meaningful journey, and you're taking a risk, and that's halal, right? As opposed to making taking a risk for no particular reason, right? Taking a risk for no particular reason, right? So I'm going to just go on a little tangent here because there's a whole discussion here. I want to just find it. So these are one of these really important things. Um, is that if you haven't studied a madhab, you don't know where things are. So you don't even know how to start looking. So you end up just using very general things. That's what a lot of university professors will do today. Um, just kind of like use general principles in the Shafi school, do this, do that. Salafi is the same thing, right? There's a whole discussion there. There's already a Salaf, people have already answered your question, and then you come along and it's like you can't find it because you don't know how fiqh works, because you've never been trained formally in fiqh, right? So I want to talk about bungee jumping. You're going to look at in Hajj. You want to find out about music, you're going to find it in marriage. You're also going to find it in shahadat. You want to find out about, I don't know, um, communal obligations, things like, oh, do I have to give my money to the poor, etc. Da, 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 da. You found that in jihad, and because we talk about communal obligations, right, etc. So um, the connections that need to be made and that are specific to each madhab is very important. And obviously, sometimes masail come up in random places. So Az-Zarkashi has a book, Al-Khabaya Zawaya, which is really random points that are found in random places, right? And he just said, by the way, I found it here, right? That's something else. Okay, so wujub, um, Okay, so here I'm reading from the Tuhfa itself. It says والأظهر ركوب وجوب ركوب البحر على رجل كذا المرأة دا 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 right بخلاف إذا غلب الهلاك. Okay, so what if it's normally dangerous? Like you've got a 60% chance of dying. وإذا استويا, right? What if it's 50-50? So I just want to see. Just want to see. It says الحاج لغيره. This is for Hajj and the like. إلا أن يكون للغزو أو على أحد وجهين بشرط عدم عظم الخطر فيه حيث يندر النجاة ولا حرام. So doing something that you would normally die is haram. Okay, talking about coming back. Let's going on to these other things. Just trying to find where it mentions Hajj. So the issue was, what if you're doing something that's dangerous? So it says if it's not too dangerous, you're obliged to, because you're doing something useful. The issue is somewhere. I remember it saying that. Um, people would normally die. It's haram, or it's 50-50. It's 50-50 is also haram. الحج وغيره. See if it says in the Hashia. وغيره. Anything other than that?
My understanding correctly that if it's 5149, they would say it's wajib, or
Yeah, that is correct. So mentioned just before mentioned, what if it's they say the situation is 9 people drown but 10 people don't, then you're obliged to. So that's pretty hardcore. Alhamdulillah. So here is what if I'm going to go to war, right? So this is a war zone. Can I go to sea? You can. Okay, what if it's yandurun najah? It's basically suicide. Then it's also going to haram to do that, right? So here we've got issues of suicide bombing. Like you're going, like the chances are, so with war and stuff like that, obviously things gonna get more and more tough, but it has to be like there has to be some logic to it. Like I jumped out of the airplane with no parachute and trying to defend the people, like that makes no sense because that's not normal, right? We don't we're not working. Miracles happen, of course. Um, I'm sure in the future we're going to hear all these miracles that probably happened in the Gaza or are happening in Gaza, etc. But um, we don't work with that. I'm just trying to see where it says what about وغيره. Yeah, it doesn't say. I can't see anything right now. But I will. I don't want to continue the tangent. Inshallah, we should be able to find something there because taking huge risks for no particular reason. Right. Okay. So وجود الزاد المناض معتدح. Okay. So the place that it be safe. There's nothing else there, right? Now, here's an issue. You do find certain stories of certain awliya doing miracles, right? They're doing things like they're going Hajj. I think I can't remember the sheikh. Was it who it was? Could it have been Dan Fodio? I'm not sure. But so like he's on a ship and the Portuguese are not letting him pray on the ship because he's a prisoner. And so they force him, or the French or Portuguese, I can't remember what it was. They say you're not allowed to, we heard in your religion you're not allowed to use people's property without their permission. And he said, yeah. He said, well, we don't let you allow you to pray. So he just put his prayer mat on the sea and prayed there, right? So the action of putting the prayer mat on the sea and just praying there, can you just do that? Like, can you say, Allah will look after me, right? Like you usually can't do that. Unless stories of Abu Hassan Shadhili going on Hajj, for example, with no, I think it was the time of the Mongols, and there's tons of highwaymen, and there's no, and the armies are busy fighting the Mongols, so they just went anyway, right? So, wrong system is to come along and say, oh, but Abu Hassan Shadhili did it, therefore it's Sunnah, right? It's like what Abu Hassan Shadhili does or does not do or Abdul Qadir Jailani does or does not do, does not define the Sunnah or the Fard or anything like that, right? And then the flip side of that is, okay, let's do inkar of the awliya. These people are all stupid and they do bad things. Like, just don't use it as a halal haram, right? Don't come along and say, as long as you're not using it to prove halal haram, this is sunnah because so and so used to do it, right? As long as you don't work in that way, just leave them alone. They have their own world. That's what they did and what they didn't do, and this and that, right? Like Ibn Arabi, for example. Ibn Arabi was a Zahiri. So you're like, oh, Zahiris are stupid. Zahiris are bad. This is ijma', you can't be Zahiri. Okay? Don't give fatwa on the Zahir madhab. Don't follow the Zahir madhab. Leave Ibn Arabi by himself. Let him answer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? As long as you remove the harm, you don't have to just start attacking these people and saying, well, this person did this and that person did that and whatever. It's not necessary. Right? So just leave it as it is. Okay. So it says الرابع وجوب الزاد والماء في المواضع المعتاد حمله منها آه، بثمن مثله وهو القدر اللائق به في ذلك المكان والزمان. Right, that you have the food and water in the normal places when you normally get them, right? The normal stops on the way, right? And they have that normal places for that. They have normal prices for that place. So yes, there's gonna be a day hike with no water and no food, and then we're gonna get to this oasis. In that oasis, food is extremely expensive, and it's always expensive, right? Right. فلو خلا بعض المنازل, some of the stops, عن ذلك فلا وجوب. You're not obliged to do that. Okay. ووجود علف الدابة في كل مرحلة, that you have food for the animals, of course, right? So there's either they can eat on the way or there's gonna be places where you can do that. Um, ولا يجب على المرأة إلا أن خرج معها زوج أو محرم أو نسوة ثقات, right? And so a woman is not obliged to go on Hajj. So now we're talking about obligation. Okay, I'm talking about obligation, not jawaz, not permissibility. Okay, so a woman is not obliged to go on Hajj, right? Um, إلا إن وجد إلا إن خرج معها ولو بأجرة م- مثل قدرت عليها, right? Even if she could pay, so she can. So we're not saying that there's somebody who's willing to go with her, but somebody she could pay. She could pay her brother to go with her. Um, she could pay her a bunch of girls to go with her, a bunch of sisters to go with her. زوج, she has a mahram like her husband. أو محرم, some other محرم. ولو كان فاسقا, even if he's فاسق, it doesn't matter, right? لأنه يغار عليها من مواضع الريب, right? نعم لو علم أنه لا يغار عليه لا يكفي, right? So she has a cousin who she's never seen before, who is a pimp. May Allah protect us. And the nobody in the family trusts, and she says, "I trust him." Say, no, we can't trust him, right? So then that doesn't count, right? So that's the whole point is he's there, even if he's not going to pray, he doesn't whatever he does bad things, but he's going to be like he's going to look after her, right? Um, أو مراهقا, مراهق doesn't mean teenager, it means somebody who's preteen, right? أو أعمى له حذاقة تأمن معه, right? So a young, so that's the issue of khalwa, right? And these kind of issues, can you be alone with, what if, can a woman be alone with a man and her son? How old is her son? Her son's 9. Okay, what's he like? Is he aware, etc. Right? It says what so basically this mahram or this person will be with her. تشترط مصاحبته لها بحيث تمنع الريبة وإن بعد عنها في بعض الأوقات ولم يكن معها لكنه قريب, right? So basically, she goes to the bathroom, this and that, etc. But the point is generally there with her. ويكفي عبدها أو أجنبي ممسوح إن كانت هي. All right. So it says, so basically either a man with her, أو نسوة ثقات, right? So it says A, ثلاث فأكثر ذوات عدالة ولو إماء, right? So they have to have women who are upright, even if female slaves, right? ويتجه الاكتفاء بالمراهقات. um, right. واعتمد في شرحي المنهج والتحرير ومحمد الرملي وخطيب الاكتفاء باثنين. Right? So that there is, so it's not that she has three females with her, but there are two. It says قال الكردي, this is late Meccan Mufti, محله إن كانت كانت واحدة منها لا تفارقها. Right? So it says they're traveling and there's three of them. So one of them goes to the bathroom, the other one's with her. Like that. Right? So that's that the issue there, right? So basically, a woman going on a Hajj group, basically totally fine. Like there's always going to be a bunch of women, right? It's not going to be one woman and 10 men, right? So it's going to be, and I'm not sure if now Saudi still stipulates, they used to stipulate that you go with a mahram or a husband. I don't know if they still do that. But anyway, if you're going, a woman's going on, so a woman, she has the money to go on Hajj. There's a Hajj group which is going to have, she's going to have, women in it, she's obliged to go. Um, or she was obliged to go because that happened when she was 16. When she was 16, that was the case. She had the money and she didn't go. It's now استقر الحج في ذمتها, right? It's now part of her obligation. Okay, so he says أما الجواز, as for permissibility فلها أن تخرج لفرض الإسلام ككل واجب ولو وحدها إذا أمنت, right? Very important principle, right? She can go, as for permissibility, so she's not obliged to go on Hajj, but is it halal for go on Hajj? She can go on Hajj for the obligation of for the fard of Islam, right? Meaning her first Hajj or first Umrah, like every single obligation, to go and learn personally obligatory knowledge, to go and get surgery, to get her income. So she lives in one city, and the only way that she can get a job is to drive to another city. So every day she commutes to work. That is permissible, right? He says, وَمِنَ الْوَاجِبِ, an example of that is خُرُوجُ الْمَرْأَةِ إِلَى مَحَلِّ حِرَاثَتِهَا, to go and plow. لأن طلب حلال واجب ولو شابة, even if she's a young lady, right? So in the Shafi school, when your daughter reaches puberty and she's old enough to make money by herself, you're not obliged to support her, right? So your daughter is 16, 18. It's her obligation to support herself. She can make money. And so what do you call this now when you're supporting her? This is called sadaqah, right? This is just like sadaqah and like looking after your brother who's trying to get through college or whatever. لكنهن قد فرطن في عدم ستر جميع البدن وغيره, right? So things are kind of obviously, so there's nothing new under the sun, right? That's why it's very important, this is the issue with the Salafi movement, or one of the issues of the Salafi movement is there's so many things that people have seen and spoken about that just cut out. And so usually there's nothing new under the sun. Everything is the same. Same discussions come up again and again and again. Right? This is exactly the same. This is I don't know when it is, like 400 years ago in Yemen, something like 300 or 400 years ago in Yemen, and it's the same discussion. Like, yes, a woman has to work. Yes, even if she's young. Yes, she has to go work in an office. Yes, she has to go to college. But farotna, they've uh, uh, farratna, sorry, that there's a big problem in the way that they're going overkill in, well, not doing the job properly in certain things. Okay, and many modern scholars, so that they've said that this is for wajib, and this is also, so ay darura, this is also for haja, right? So they said that there's a pressing need to go. Okay, is it life or death? No, it's not life or death. Okay, so then why is she traveling by herself? Because it's a pressing need. It'd be very difficult, right? Um, it's a similar kind of thing. So if That's and then also, just in terms of dispensations, we also have a weak-ish position in the Shafi school that says that women can travel even without a need. It's a very weak position, and it's not super clear to be fair. And more practically, in the Maliki school, they say the mashhur, from what I understand, and Zannati and others, they explicitly mentioned this, is a woman traveling in open roads. So this is a road that is never, you're never alone. So she's always surrounded by 20, 30, 40, 50 people. So this is not considered traveling. So they say this is like moving with your village. So it's fine, right? It's like being in a city. Like she can travel around, walk around a city, right? So that practically speaking, that means I'm in San Francisco. From my apartment in San Francisco to the airport, I'm always around tons of people. From the airport to New York, I'm around tons of people. From New York to London, I'm around tons of people. From London to Delhi, I'm around tons of people. And then go back, it's totally fine, right? So, so that's the Maliki school, and that's why I remember when I researched that with somebody and we found it, and then we found that like Azhar had specifically, and Azhar, when they're working within the form of madhab is totally fine. So they were like they made a proper answer like this is the mashhur of the Maliki school. It is permissible. It's fine. It's you're totally fine. And it's the same kind of discussions basically. You're basically safe. It's the whole issue. Um, Now, is that a good idea though? It's not a good idea, right? So when you say it's permissible, so in the Shafi school, can a woman live by herself? Yes. Can a woman travel basically by herself with this dispensation? Yes. Is the whole thing good? No, it's not, right? So is it a good idea that there's an 18-year-old girl living by herself in an apartment in New York? That's not a good idea, is it? And then when something happens and you're like, man, I should have been more careful. And you're like, yeah. And people say that about their sons as well. Like, man, it's like it's not a, it's like keeping people at home. And they're like, man, I should have kept my son. Like, I should have kept my son closer. I didn't know how bad it was or what kind of things can happen morally or in terms of danger. Right? It's like, so um, so when you say it's permissible, that doesn't make it recommended. It doesn't mean it's part of the spirit of the deen, right? So, but it's one issue to say, listen, these people really need to travel. It's really, really hard, as opposed to, you know. Let's just go, let everybody go wherever they want, you know. Um, okay. And also a condition for the obligation of the woman is that we'll see it later on, and a man is that you get permission from certain people as well. So we'll see that later on. Um, so let's just quickly just mention it now. So for a woman, she has to have permission from her husband. A child, meaning offspring, you have to have permission from your parents, right? As long as it's not an obligatory Hajj. Um, so you're going on your second Hajj, and your parents say, "I don't want you to leave." Right? You can't go. Um, and then the debtor, right? Like if this means you're not going to pay the debts on time, you need permission, right? Okay. So number five then is أن يثبت على الراحلة بلا مشقة شديدة, right? That he is able to sit on a camel, horse, whatever it is, donkey, بلا مشقة شديدة, without extreme difficulty. وإلا لم يجب عليه بنفسه